Welcome back everybody, Yawgmoth the Rogue here with another exciting guide on killing all 4 Creants and information that you need to know when attacking them. So first we'll be doing the Medusa Creant, and here we have a bunch of annoying little vipers, and they drop red and blue potions. The red potions is the Beothach Doom, which is a resurrection potion. So if you're strong enough to get here and kill these guys, because they only have about 8,000 hit points, you can farm a lot of Beothach Dooms, which can be used for the Heart of Fire quest, or just to resurrect people for free. You can solo the Medusa with Maiden Traps or Pitfall Traps. She's also affected by poison, so if you are weak enough and you can't afford to Maiden Trap her or Pitfall Trap her, you can poison her and wait somewhere safe while the poison gets low. She's also affected by Blind and Sleep Snare, so you can blind her while setting maiden traps, which is one strategy I used to do. Was I would set a line of 10 or 20 maidens and then a blind at the end, and she would just come towards me on the traps and then get blinded, and while she was blinded I would set another 20 traps, and then when the blind wore off she would come down into the next blind, and we'd repeat this process. In this area, I definitely recommend making sure that you kill the vipers into the area that you will be trapping so that they do not walk onto the traps that you have set. All of the Creants have around 2 million hit points. Since Maiden Trap does around 10,000 damage, you'll need about 200 of them. Since Pitfall Trap does around 40 to 45,000 damage, you'll need about 50 of them. Laying the traps, even though you have to lay so many, doesn't actually take that long. Like, I just laid around 50 traps while we were talking. You can see that she does holy damage and darkness defense, and then what I'll be doing is just shadow figuring or using an ambush skill so that it is easier to keep her walking on the traps. If you are using Maiden, I suggest the first trap that she steps on should be a poison trap, because every 10,000 damage of poison is one less maiden trap that you'll have to do. If you're coming in here with a group the way it was intended, the recommended amount of hit points is around 20,000 to be able to do this quest safely. You can probably get away with 50,000 if you have a pretty good group. You'll need some sort of basher or 2, and then a priest and wizard. Once she is dead, make sure that the person who's doing it has to pick up the item, go back to the altar, and exchange it for either the legend mark and a piece of equipment, or just the legend mark. Alright, so next we'll be doing the Shaman Creant. After you have toughed the maze, the Shaman Creant has a trap room, so you must be careful. The traps in here will decrease your hit points and mana points. If you're killing the boss with traps, then the traps will not be effective if you put traps on one of the traps that is already in the room. So these bricks, if I put a trap on a brick, it will not work. So what I am doing is trying to find a nice path that doesn't have too many traps, and I'm going to put coins down signifying spots in which there is no map trap, so that way I can lay my pitfall traps. And just to show that traps don't work in the room's traps, I will drop a poison snare on one of those traps to see and show you that the poison snare will not affect the shaman. The shaman, just like the Medusa Creant, can be blinded and poisoned, so if you're using maiden traps, I recommend beginning with poison on the shaman, and then have it walk through some traps onto a blind trap, and then reset more maidens, and then do more maiden traps into a blind trap. If you multi-stack traps like I am doing, you don't need to blind as often. You could probably put about 7 to 10 traps down in each spot, have it walk back and forth onto the traps 10 times, and then drop a blind while you set another 10 stack in each spot. Obviously, if you are bringing a caster with you, it is easier to bash down or combo down the Creant, especially if you have a light attack necklace. The person that I'm helping here is a priest, so he could curse the Creant and I could probably one-shot it, but I am just using traps because the guide is intended for weaker players to be able to do this on their own. So one thing to be careful of, the spells they cast do hit very hard, and they are one of the reasons why you need to have so much hit points and buffs to be able to tank them. You will see the priest, since he has so little hit points, skull from time to time, and I'll have to save him. So one thing I can do is I can pick it up and give it to him, as long as I don't stand in the circle. And then he has to go back into the summoning area to get the completion. Alright, so now let's head off to do the Phoenix Creant. Assuming you know the way here, we'll also be killing this with traps. This one's a little bit easier to do, although in my experience, she is one of the most spellcasty ones. So you'll definitely need a healer if you are low hit points. And you also need to be careful about the green mantis that can appear in these areas and other spawns. So one thing that I always make sure to do is to make sure that all green mantises are either killed or lured away, and then I clear the immediate area of creatures, so that way it's just me and the Phoenix Creant. Just like the other Creants, she is affected by maidens, pitfall traps, blinds, and poisons. If you're using the maiden trap strategy, I definitely recommend poisoning it ahead of time, so that it will save you from doing exactly 200 maiden traps. And I know maidens sound like it's a lot, like 200 traps, but if you just do 10 grid spaces and put 10 traps on each, it's not really that big of a deal. It goes by pretty quickly. So one thing you may or may not have noticed is it's pretty much the exact same strategy for all these crems. So hopefully it's not too boring for you guys. Lastly is the Incred. I'm going to walk through here because this is a pretty scary room, but if you can get through here with invisibility, it's not too bad. There's only around 4 maps, and I only recommend walking through 2 of these maps in a single hide, and make sure you re-hide near a door so that way if you mess up, you can quickly go through the door. These creatures will spam AoEs that will kill you even after you re-hide, and if you fail to re-hide with other players nearby, it'll kill them as well. So I would definitely recommend having each of your party walk through invisible by themselves. So we'll be killing this guy with our traps. He's pretty easy to kill. He casts the least amount of spells out of all of them. Most of the time I don't think he even casts any spells. And he's probably the easiest to tank and spank. I'll speed this part up so that way it's less boring. So that was pretty much all 4 Creant kills. Thanks for tuning in, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!